Hey everybody. Hi people. Hopefully you can hear me again. This didn't seem to be a problem last time. So today we're going to look at some of the pictures I took yesterday, just to do a simple portrait retouch and a simple, you know, advertising style retouch. These are pretty basic things that I'm going to do to the images. I think that the uh, process of what you go through is important to prepare files to be used for different things. Like if you want uh, advertisements such as billboards, or if you want magazine stuff. So it's all different types of uses for the images. So we have a couple. We have the images we shot yesterday of Lauren here. As you can see, we went through a variety of different success rates. We had this one, which was super blown out when we were first getting started here. I had the hair light, shoulder light kind of way too much on blast. And I kind of got where I wanted with them down here, which is I selected, which is what we're going to work on today. But the other image is going to be this one. She is looking all heroic and epic with her little tiny football. um, and there's some things that the client would say, or other designers or assistants on a set like this would say, to sort of keep the process moving. Like, for example, down here, her shirt is kind of rumpled, which wouldn't really happen on a shoot, because someone would say something and we would kind of correct it. But we didn't do that yesterday. We were just trying to get through the process of kind of setting up a portrait shoot. That was the idea. And the same thing goes with her collar here. We would have adjusted that stuff. So let's take a look at the three images that I have selected here and what we can do with them. So yeah, these three images, again, like you can see the difference between these is there's a highlight on her hair and shoulders in this image right here. It's also a slightly darker image. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually adjust it to more closely match that first image. It's pretty good in terms of the highlights. But as you can see, there's a lot more definition around her shoulder and her hair here, because we have light at her head. Yes, there's quite a bit of contrast in this first image here. So it balances out a little bit more. It really depends on what you're going for. Like in this situation, a client might pick one or the other based on what they like. Maybe they like the more contrasty image, like the more dramatic eyes that you get out of that. But here is a little softer. So we're going to do some quick local adjustments on this quick, and then we're going to open these up in Photoshop. Possibly, maybe not the portrait ones, but probably this one. So what I like to do is the first thing I like to do is I like to play with my exposure, like, so that can go either way really. Like, how hot do we want the image to be? I like to have things a little on the brighter side for the highlights. So if you take a look here, you turn off what that isn't quite where I want it to be quite yet. So we'll keep that going up. That's a little bit too much, I think, compared to this one. Yeah, this is definitely better. So what we'll do is we'll adjust our contrast a little bit, some clarity. I like to do a little bit of vibrance as well, just to kind of punch up some colors. Like I want that yellow to really pop. You can also adjust your colors, your saturation of your colors with the saturation slider here. But this definitely gets a little more extreme, like makes Lauren look like an orange, which we don't really want, and I'm sure she would not appreciate. So if we go over to our hue saturation, I can adjust the yellows to be a little bit brighter. Looking better. So once we hop back over here, what I like to do is I want to take a look at the stray hairs along her hairline here. Now this is going to be a situation you run into quite a bit when you're doing portraits. If you're not using makeup artists and that sort of thing, it's just kind of a fact that you're going to deal with, unless your subject is doing a lot of styling in their hair on their own. Like, you're probably going to have to do some adjustments here. So I actually like to do a lot of work in camera. I know a lot of people are kind of against that idea. They like to use Photoshop because you can create PSD files and print ready files and that sort of thing. But I like to work directly on the raw file itself before I open it in Photoshop and do any like slight retouches that you can do, because there's some things you can't do as easily in Camera Raw as you can do in Photoshop itself. Really quickly, before we go any further, I want to change my color space that I'm working in, which right now is sRGB or shitty RGB. Once again, I used to be saying school. I want to have this set to Adobe Color. If you're doing like ad stuff, you want to be working in the ProPhoto RGB space because there's just a lot more colors. But for our purposes, this is going to be just a print. Maybe it's going to be used for a Facebook profile photo, that sort of thing. So we're going to just work in Adobe RGB for now. 8-bit channel is fine. 300 ppi resolution, that's all looking good. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take out some of these flyaway hairs that you're seeing. And I just use the spot removal tool in RAW because it's pretty good and you can adjust it pretty quickly. And it's nice to have just one tool that you're using. So I'm going to just trace that so you can kind of see how that works. Like it just kind of takes an area near that is the same color and same contrast, and it just kind of like removes it. It blends it all over into that spot. So if you turn off the preview there, oops, you get out of that, you will no longer see it, so that it's very clean. So it defaults to RGB pretty often with Adobe, with the Creative Suite. I just installed an update, so like, yeah, it automatically did that, I think because of the update. So you just want to keep an eye on that sort of thing, because normally I would always be working in Adobe RGB or ProPhoto. So what I'm going to do here, just to kind of move things along quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and select as much of, oh, that made a mistake, my mistake. Let's delete that. I'm going to just smooth out a lot of these flyaway hairs. Now, people's preferences and their uses of the tools vary greatly by obviously personal preference. So you're going to get different people having different techniques. When I'm doing quick portrait shoots like this, I'll typically just do this because it's not super specific. And see, so what I'm getting here is I'm getting a little bit of too much of the hairline, the edge here. There we go, that's better. Yeah, there we go. And I will probably be finishing this off in Photoshop just to kind of smooth out the edges here, but just to blend in the background, let me get this going a bit. It'll be a little bit better for our sake here. Just get this started. So once again, I'll remove a bunch of the hairs, like kind of the flyaways, that sort of thing. Just because when I open up Camera, or when I open up Photoshop, I like to have most of the stuff done already. Okay, so let's kind of move on from there because I want to show you guys probably stuff that you want to see more, which is going to be like how you would adjust skin or do any retouching, that sort of thing. So usually what I do for local adjustments, one of the main things I do right away is I always adjust the eyes. Something I'd like to do with eyes is I like to add a little bit of highlight just to kind of make the eyes pop a little bit more where you see them. So I'll adjust my exposure a little bit and just add a tiny bit under the eyes, just a little crescent. And depending on the brightness of your subject's eyes and the lighting, you want to keep an eye on how much you adjust it so it doesn't look weird. Yeah, I think that makes your eyes pop a lot more already. And then as for things like, I'm sure a lot of people like to see things like different skin smoothing techniques and that sort of thing. You see a lot of different things. Now, I don't do a ton of skin smoothing, but I will do a little bit because you don't want to see like all the dimples and pores in someone's skin in a portrait because they might be upset with you. So what I do here is I just use my clarity tool, which is sharpening, and I just do like 30 points down, and I just kind of smooth things a little bit. And that's just my first layer. It's really subtle. You probably actually can't even see it. Now, if I went all the way on that, you can see that it definitely does a lot. It kind of makes your face look like a little, I want to say liquidy, melty, but it does quite a bit there. And sometimes with this sort of thing, you gotta be careful too, because you can get color bleeding on a lot of this. So yeah, so we've got our clarity adjusted down here. Sometimes I'll adjust a little bit of brightness too, because sometimes that will kind of mess up the shadows a little bit. Okay, so then I'm going to go and just take out some imperfections in the skin. Just any blemishes that maybe we didn't cover up with makeup at the time. There you go. That looks pretty good. This looks a little bit orange here. There's a bit of a makeup line on the neck. I'm going to go ahead and adjust that down by just doing a bit of a cooling layer on her face overall. Yeah, there we go. That's looking a lot more neutral. Maybe a little bit too cool. Great. So we'll come back to this image in Photoshop itself. So I'm going to just hop over to this one and kind of do similar adjustments in that I want to have a similar image to work with that just has the light here on the side. Contrast adjusted. And do our little eye trick. Okay. And so then I will make another adjustment and just kind of do some skin smoothing. quickly take out a couple blemishes. Now, in the case of Lauren here and other subjects, you're going to have certain features that you maybe don't want to remove, like this little mole here. I think is, you wouldn't want to remove that. I think that would take away from the portrait of her because it's very much her. Here's what it looks like when you take that out. I don't think it really does much. So let's go ahead and take that out because that is Lauren. That mole is, it's part of her face. All right, so we've got all of our adjustments made here. Her skin doesn't seem to be super orange like in the other one here. Face adjusted. Let's maybe lower that a little bit, but it doesn't need to go as much. Yeah. And with the hair, I'm going to go ahead and just do that in Photoshop itself. Then for this image, this is going to be our advertising image. We want to make it look so that like there is, you could place a Nike swoosh right here, and it'd be like, yeah, like this is a Nike ad. Obviously, because we shot it so quickly and just wanted to kind of have results. There's a couple things like the collar, like I was saying, is kind of messed up. And they would probably spend a little more time to make sure her shirt and stuff was really straight. But since we were kind of in a hurry the other day, we had some stuff to do. I just kind of got out of the way, shot it. So, and I mean, you could kind of quote unquote fix it in post. I hate that. That is not a thing that you really should do. So, okay, let's adjust some highlights down first. I notice her face is a little bit bright, but we're going to adjust that down because we're going to add a whole bunch of contrast to this, like a whole bunch. We want it to be kind of a super contrasty image. Now, something I would have done differently in others, I would have put that rear light a little higher just so we could kind of see her hair a little bit better. You can see it if I remove that adjustment, it's a little bit better, but it's still very, it's still pretty dark. I think in the future you would want to kind of adjust your side lighting or backlighting in this case a little bit higher so that it would catch the side of her head. But we didn't really see that in post once again, we didn't really see that during the shoot. But on shoots like this, you'll be working with the full crew, and someone will point it out to you. Not that I'm saying you should completely rely on others. Like I said, we were in a bit of a hurry yesterday, but this wouldn't happen because you'd have a lot of people working. You have art directors, you have producers, you have technicians, that sort of thing. All right, so we're going to adjust our sharpness here. And I want to darken the edges a little bit more because, as you can see, this blue means that there is some black in the image, but it's not completely dark. Where is my... Here we go. So I'm going to make that nice and contrasty around the edges. Let's go ahead and remove that. Now we're going to go back to our image and kind of adjust the overall brightness a little bit. Even though I kind of adjusted her brightness down before, I wanted to have this nice highlight behind her. This may look kind of bright on your screen, but it actually looks, it looks just under where I would want it to be. And in the case of doing like print stuff, like if you have this printed in a magazine or something like that, your colors are going to appear much darker. So you got to be aware of kind of where your image is going to be used eventually, so you can prepare your files appropriately for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the brightness on her neck a little bit because that is looking a little bit too bright. Let's go half a stop down here. Better. A little bit on her cheeks. Great. This is our before and this is our after here. And, you know, like I said, with her, the top of her head here, we probably would make sure that we got a little bit more light on it from the rear lights, but this is looking pretty good. I think this could actually stand to be a little bit brighter. All right, let's open these in Photoshop. It can take a little while to read the files that you take from camera, partly because what's going on with the software itself, but also because this camera that I shot these on, really high resolution. So you would eventually, these would be pretty large files. They come out right out of the camera. They come out to about 90 megabytes. So, all right, so let's just take care of some of these stray hairs that we saw earlier. I'm gonna make a new layer and do our clone stamp tool. I know a lot of people are going to be like, clone stamp, what? Yeah, clone stamp is used a lot in commercial stuff. Pass these really low. All right. Now just take off the edges here just so that you don't see any stray hairs that are like really sticking out. I want to get rid of some of this bleed that we got from some of the hairs here from camera raw. That will definitely stand out. And I'm going to take care of all of that. I'm going to take all that out because I think that's just too much. I'm starting to see the edge of my brush a little bit because it looks like the lightness behind her is starting to kind of fall off. So we're starting to see some of that. So we got to just be aware of our placement for that stuff. As you can see, like flyaway hairs get everywhere. And you know, it's just something you got to be aware of. A lot of times when you're doing like commercial shoots too, you'll be working with, like I was saying before, like a whole creative team. And so a lot of times on advertising stuff, you won't even be doing the retouching yourself. A lot of places do a lot of their stuff in-house, and it's just something you got to be okay with. You got to be able to relinquish some of that control. Eventually, it becomes a relief when you realize you don't have to retouch, spend hours in Photoshop retouching stuff. There's other like faster ways to do this too. Like you'll see different tutorials about how to like remove stray hairs individually. And I would rather just get in there myself and do it. Like I just find it a lot more. I just get a lot more peace of mind knowing that I have more control. So that took a little bit too much there. Her hair looks too straight. Just like I said, you just want to take away the flyaways. You don't want to do too much into other stuff here. All right, so then I'm going to quickly just take care of these hairs on her neck. Got a little bit too much right there. Don't like that. That's better. What happened there? What is that? Weird glitch, I guess. All right, so we're going to take a look, turn off our layers here. You can see the hair is smoothed out quite a bit. There wasn't a whole lot we need to do with it because Lauren keeps her hair pretty well together. So that looks pretty good, at least for a starting point here. I might do another pass on this later, but for our purposes today, I think this looks pretty good. So if we'll hop over to our add image here. And something that you should definitely do in Photoshop every time you're doing something that isn't like a portrait. Now you can see there's a couple of flyaways here actually. Take care of some of those. As you can see, she has a bit of a tuft of hair here that I think we're going to take out. Just want to, it's a little distracting, so we just want to make sure that we have that. I got a little bit on her neck here. That is okay because I will clean that up a bit in a minute. Clean up some of those flyaway hairs. That was good. Give her a little haircut. Okay. So, oh yeah, I want to look at this picture. So as you can see in this picture, she has that rear light, that hair light on her a little bit. So that actually brings forward a lot more stray hairs and stuff. So let's take a look what we can do here to clean some of these up a bit. So make a new layer. And yet, once again, the clone stamp is an amazing tool. Photographers use it all the time. Don't believe them if they say they don't, because they're lying if they say they don't. This would be another situation where I would probably do a lot of this in camera raw, because the edges of the hair are sticking out so far from the rest of her that it would cover up pretty simply in camera raw. But some people refuse to edit in camera. I don't know why. I love camera raw. I've been using it since school. I think it's just a great tool. A little spot back here, we fix that. Right. Now, like I said before, this is a pretty quick retouch job here. You might spend, you might spend 10 minutes on an image. You might spend an hour on an image. It really depends on what the final use is for. In this case, this is going to be a portrait. And so this is not something that we're going to spend tons and tons of time on. Let's see all the different parts that I removed. This is our kind of most dramatic one, where I remove the hair on our neck. So then we would follow the same sort of thing we did before, in that we would save the files for print, save the files for web usage. There's different upsizing programs you could use to ready them for print on, say, like a billboard, because like 90 megapixels is not enough to print on a billboard. You could probably print what's a good example size? You could probably print at least 20 by 30, or maybe even 30 by 40 before you start to see any degradation. And even then, like, the average person's not going to see any artifacts or anything that like is not, or they just wouldn't notice it. So anyway, this is our quick retouching video that we did here. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. I think we covered kind of basics of what basically happens with these types of images. Oh yeah, I gotta get that Nike swoosh right. Nike logo on black. There we go. Oh man, this block. I don't want anything coming from Pinterest. Let's put that here. Let's open up Photoshop again. Yeah, I can see it. Some nice little swoosh logo here. Stick it down here. That's kind of what they're doing these days. They're putting the logo down there. Oh boy, sorry about that. Oh, so Doug, to answer your question, 30 by 40 feet on 90 megapixels is, you definitely couldn't do that with a native file size out of the camera. you could get to like a quarter of that before you start to see degradation. But again, with a situation with a billboard, uh, where it's far away and people are going to see it from the highway and that sort of thing, you the pixelization of the image a super isn't much of a problem because people are going to see it from far away. It all depends on where people are going to see it from. I was referring to 30 feet by 40 inches. um, yeah, but there's different programs you can use that'll kind of upres your image, and they're kind of specifically designed for that industry, for the people that prep stuff for billboards and that sort of thing. Uh, but no, your average digital camera, except for maybe like the Hasselblads, could natively shoot to that size, like to 30 by 40 feet. Um, again, it's all about usage. Like you see photographers that make these gigantic prints. A lot of the like wall size prints. Like I like to talk a lot about what's his name? I talk a lot about Gregory Crutzen. Like he's one of my favorite photographers. Uh, he's one of my favorite photographers. Gregory Crutzen makes these enormous prints that are like literally the size of, you know, the side of your house. I'm just going to pull some up here because I'll just show them off a little bit. So he produces these types of images like super huge. Now something that he shoots on typically 8x10 negative film. And so you can blow those up huge before you start to see degradation. And since the negative is so large, 8 inches by 10 inches, or larger in some cases, there's no degradation quality. You just like even the noise he reduces by scanning it digitally. And yes, those shot on an iPhone billboards are bullshit. They yeah, not possible. Uh, so if you're interested in large scale production stuff with large format cameras, Gregory Crutzen shoots on an 8x10 view camera, and he is a modern day photographer, and he's amazing. He's weird. Uh, he has a documentary that's out that I really love. He's kind of a strange guy, but you know. Anyway, thanks for. I don't know why I just clapped right now. That's probably more annoying than anything. Thanks for watching. We would probably, save all this stuff out for different formats, for print, for magazine, for billboards, for displays, for web. But we're not going to do that today because I did that before. I'm thinking possibly, well, no, I know the next thing I'm going to do and live stream here is I'm going to shoot a product, a still life object on film, and I'm going to use my medium format Hasselblad RZ67 to shoot that. So we're going to go through the process of loading the camera and doing all that stuff. Also might shoot 35 millimeter as well, just because it's fun. And then I'll shoot digital alongside it so you can see what I'm doing, but I will get them developed through a third party so that we can see the finished product, and you can kind of see how crazy similar, how like very close digital is to film now. Like there used to be quite a difference. You could see it, but now it's a lot closer. Anyway, next time, I'm not going to plan it. I'm not going to schedule it because we're all on Facebook right now anyway because we're bored and we're in quarantine. There's nothing to do. So we're on Facebook. So when you see that I'm going live, pop up on your feed, just drop in, say hi. We're going to be shooting film stuff. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.